some type of word, assuming. Hello and good morning. I am so excited you're here. I today wanted to focus this quick little segment on getting yourself really connected to gratitude or grace in your life and really dialing in a new way to change your perspective. I think a lot of the times we get really invested in trying to bridge the gap of communication by telling people how we feel and what we're thinking, instead of taking that really cool opportunity to recognize there's a little bit of a disconnection because you're not creating grace in the conversation. And I think of grace as kind of giving someone the benefit of the doubt, or giving yourself the benefit of the doubt, and learning from a different perspective, getting a chance to see the other side of a conversation. So creating grace in this way is more like, let's give an example, it could be easiest. When someone walks in the room and they're super grumpy and you make the mistake of saying, "Are you angry?" "Are you in a bad mood?" And it shifts somebody into a bad mood. That's not really giving grace, it's kind of labeling an assumptive, and we're not creating, is assumptive a word? Assuming, instead of giving them the opportunity to show up and share. So in that kind of space, the way you could shift it would be to do something like, "Hey, do you need a hug?" Or maybe even say, "How's things going? What's new?" And really open up the dialogue and create an opportunity for something to be different. Because sometimes if we just hold space for someone, the mood can shift for them and change their day. Another opportunity of that kind of thing is when it comes internally. You know how much I love to talk about personal growth and how we show up. So in this way, it would be more recognizing, if we use the same theme of being in a bad mood, recognizing that I am in a bad mood and that I may need a little space, or slow things down and not be invested in trying to make something happen over here or change something, that forced change, creating that resistance, right? Which creates more heat and more intensity and more negativity. So I like the belief around natural change, which is the awareness, the opportunity to see something different by allowing the space to happen and creating more expansiveness. And the way to kind of explain expansiveness is more not being in your mind, but being in the presence of something and allowing it to just be, not trying to force that change. So playing with that is really important, because a lot of the times we start pushing ourselves to get the job done or try to get something to happen. We create a lot of heat, and then we end up with a negative experience, or an experience we believe we didn't deserve. So sometimes we kind of pull it in all on our own. So it's really important to give ourselves that gift of time and space, just as much as we would do it for someone else, and really connect to that potential. When we don't take the time to invest in an understanding of ourselves, we can kind of get blurred between discernment and understanding the outer experience and ourselves. And that will shift the connections that we have. When that pops up, when we have this complete, intense experience of resistance, I think of this a lot of the times with family dynamics and children. If you're raising kids at this time in your life, you can see that play out really well. Terrible teens, I think we call it, or terrible twos. There's all kinds of examples. In relationships where there's a lot of frustration with, divorce, or, the dynamic of divorce is always so fascinating to me. You have, a father and a mother, or two separate partners who have separated, and they have their own belief systems about a situation. And if there are children in the mix, they're kind of getting skewed information between both perspectives. Not either perspective is necessarily wrong, it's just a different perspective. And in a fight, obviously, usually you have opposite perspectives, right? You have a different stance. And that resistance creates that intensity. And instead of trying to understand and coming to grace with, understanding somebody else's perspective, you are standing in your resistance. And in a divorce situation, a lot of the times kids feel like they're in the middle. I think you probably could relate and understand to a child or someone being in the middle of a fight and feeling that little tug of war. Trying to share with someone their perspective and trying to get the child to, feel like they're in the middle. Not really fair, but that's kind of the dynamic of what happens there. And it can really put children in a state of pain against both parents. And so what I like to work through is helping parents recognize that they can share their feelings about something, but in a very neutral perspective, not in a intense, placing blame in one side or the other. And it can be really challenging because you're very invested in your feeling or your belief around something, and that can create a lot of heat for people. So the way I pull people out of that is I'll say, okay, your feeling about, say, introducing a new mate to the family, and there's another person who's in resistance. I'm trying to paint a little bit of a picture here for you. It can be very intense, and that could be hard because maybe the spouse doesn't want the child to meet the new boyfriend or the new girlfriend. And that can create a lot of inner heat. There's a story about that. So why not share with your child that, this is an uncomfortable situation for you, and you're learning to navigate that, and let them speak about how they feel about it. Can really create a lot of grace and a lot of empathy for your child to understand your perspective. And it doesn't change the situation, but it can help bridge the confusion. Not all children are old enough to handle this. I know a lot of children are very young, and age does play a factor. So you have to be mindful about the way you share. But providing grace, giving somebody a different perspective, expanding the understanding can shift the resistance and create a new level of connection for the person that's in the experience with you, and also create a new potential for you to understand your emotional range. So a lot of the times when we are struggling with resistance, or we're finding anger in our everyday life, we're missing that opportunity to create grace. And in the new year, giving yourself the opportunity to change your perspective can start with just the simple gesture of creating grace for yourself, being present to what is, and allowing people to meet you halfway. So I hope that helps. I hope you're having a blessed start to the new year, and we will see you guys next week.